What's crappin'? Welcome to Under the Foreskin, a show dedicated to the happenings of the SJU and Misfits Fantasy Football League. My name is Kyle. I'm the owner and operator of the still undefeated but slight blemish on the record Potomac Pretenders, the voice of SJU and Misfits. And today in the Under the Foreskin studio is a very, very special guest. His first time on the show, President and CEO of the Chernobyl Tinwiskers, the surprise 3-2 high point scoring, two times so far, highest scoring team in the league for a week. Mike Vanis in the house. Mike, why don't you say hi to everybody?
Hello. It's great to be here.
Perfect. So we're going to roll through standings today. We will also talk about what happened in Week 5, a lot of great games. We'll go through waiver wire Wednesday, as always. Some more trades this week. Last week was obviously a down week with no trades. We made up for it this week. 4 trades going through today, and I know that there are more in the works. Week 6 pick'em. Mike and I will hit that up, and we'll talk about who we like this week and why we like them. And then we will sign off as always. So, standings for the league. On top, feels so nice. 4-0-1. The Potomac Pretenders. Followed closely by the Polish Sausage Wallets at 4-1. The Border Collies at 4-1. And the Gnawbone Butte Pirates at 4-1. Fifth place is the Crapstone Prairie Dogs at 3-2. Chernobyl Tinwiskers also at 3-2. All 6 of those teams in the playoffs. Seventh place by record is the Flint Tropics, 2-2-1. Eighth place, Duluth Draft Dodgers lead that group of 2 and 3 teams, followed by the Pandas and the Sioux City Smugglers and the Hollywood Hotties. Tallahassee Trouser Snakes find themselves in 12th place at 1-4, but would be in the playoffs if they started today. And they are tied record-wise with the Buffalo Armadillos, also at 1-4. In the bottom of the pack, the Waco Wrinklebeasts, 0-5, 325 points scored. Many teams in 500, and everyone else well into the 400s. So, tough start this season for the Waco Wrinklebeasts as they face my Pretenders this week. Looking forward to that one. So, Week 5 wrap-up. Here we go. Matt Bryant and Roddy White tie on Monday Night Football, resulting in the first tie of the year in the SJU and Misfits Fantasy Football League. My Potomac Pretenders tied the Flint Tropics 88-88. For my team, Jamal Charles, 18 points. Torrey Smith, 13 points. Another nice week. And the Chiefs D, who has been a standout for my Pretenders, 19 points. Unfortunately for my team, the Gazelle, Colin Kaepernick, only scored 9. And if it weren't for Yahoo Fantasy's shitty-ass app, I would have had Eli Manning in there. I'd be 5-0 and gloating even more. Fitz and A.J. Green, my 2 stud wide receivers, not looking like studs this week. 10 points between the 2 of them. For the Flint Tropics, Des Bryant went nuts in that shootout in Denver. He scored 25 points. The Law Firm with 12 outscored my Gio Bernard, who only had 4. And Hauschka, the kicker, 17 points. Big scoring week for kickers this week. And Hauschka was right up there with the best of them. Unfortunately for the Tropics, Ben Tate with 1 point and Jordan Cameron with 3 points on Thursday Night Football. Cameron's been a stud all year for the Flint Tropics, so it was tough for Neil not to see Cameron succeed. Gnawbone Butte Pirates took on the Crapstone Prairie Dogs. Headline reads, Butte Pirates steal a win as Kelvin watches from the sidelines. Gnawbone Butte Pirates 98, Crapstone Prairie Dogs 88. Obviously, Kelvin Johnson declared inactive right previous to the game while we were scarfing some brunch in Cumberland / Balsam Lake, Wisconsin. Fortunately for Crapstone, Noshawn Moreno had a nice game, 20 points, and San Francisco D finally showed up. They scored 25 against Houston on Sunday Night Football. Unfortunately for Crapstone, the holes in his lineup this week were just too big. 2 tight end set did not pay off this week. 5 points for Jared Cook and Jermichael Finley combined. And Aaron Rodgers scored only 14 points this week. Not a bad day by most standards, but when you pay big bucks for a guy like A-Rod, you expect more than that. For the Butte Pirates, Freddie Jackson, 21 points. Willis McGahee, 13 points. The oldest starting tandem in the league had probably the best combined score for 2 running backs in the league. 27.7 points for Arizona D. Outscored San Francisco's 25. Very nice start by Zach there. I don't think he'd started Arizona's D all year, and he put him in this week. Duluth Draft Dodgers took on the Sioux City Smugglers. Duluth Draft Dodgers Foster and their band of Misfits wax the Smugglers this week. 110-71. Dodgers to 2-3. Smugglers fall to 2-3. Rivers, Decker, Pettis, Murray, Olson, Woodhead, and obviously has Arian Foster too. But just look at that lineup. It's a band of misfits. They're all in double figures this week. And if it weren't for the guy sitting across the desk from me, Austin Pettis would have been the start of the week as he had a monster game. No negatives on the Dodgers. Everyone over their projections this week. For the Smugglers, there were some negatives. Tom Brady, 5 points. What maybe even hurts more is that Tony Romo was left on the bench, and he scored upwards to 40 points. Reggie Bush, 6 points. Just not the same when he's not on turf. And Jonathan Franklin, the big donut. I'm not even sure he had a carry in the game. I guess some positives. Wes Welker seems to be a TD machine this year as Peyton keeps hucking him the ball at the goal line. And James Jones caught a bomb. So those were the bright spots for the Smugglers. Well, other than that, really didn't have any and only scored 71 points. Next game, Chernobyl Tinwiskers took on the Polish Sausage Wallets. I'm going to read the headline because I'm really proud of it. And I'm going to let Mike talk about his team's big victory. Headline reads, Tinwiskers slip in the back door and donkey punch the Sausage Wallets. Whammy! And first of all, I also want to apologize to Mike for all the preseason hate I gave him and all the rest of us gave him. You know, at draft day, his team didn't look like much, but guess what? There are a lot of players that are turned out to be pretty fucking good. And even if Mendenhall and D-Rich are the starting running backs, they're actually producing some points. And a guy like Peyton Manthing, he makes up for all the difference. So I'll let Mike take you through this week's game, and then we'll move on to the next week.
Thanks, Kyle. I just want to say I'm proud of my team this week. We had a lot of effort out there on the field. Peyton Manning, of course, the shootout down in Dallas. You can't go wrong with him. Big game out of Elshon Jeffrey.
Start of the week.
That's right. He showed his talents in Chicago with Mark Trestman at the helm down there. They're really starting to toss the ball around and feeling good about him as well as Martellus Bennett's future. So yeah, threw up the high points of the week, 124 points total. As far as the Sausage Wallets go, Matt Schaub, downer this week, put up the goose egg. Tough to come through when the quarterback is putting up zeros. McCoy had a decent week, as well as Cleveland came out strong this week against the Buffalo Bills as well, putting up a score of 19. With that, I'll throw it back to Kyle, and we can go through the rest of the games.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. I will say the only down spot on your team this week was Andre Johnson, and you couldn't have picked a better week to have him have a bad game because Schaub threw him no passes hardly and had a lot of picks go his way. But, if Andre's got to suffer at the expense of a 0-point quarterback, you'll take that every week. Lamar Miller not looking like it's working out too well for the Sausage Wallets as the Joique Bell-Lamar Miller trade between my team and his looks less and less relevant as the days go on. Also tough news for the Sausage Wallets. Julio Jones likely lost for the season. They're saying he broke the screw in his surgically repaired foot. That's a strong foot to break a metal screw instead of a bone. That's incredible. Unfortunately, without Julio on that team, it's not as pretty as it once was. He's been having a nice season. We'll move on, though. Baton Rouge Border Collies. They took on the Waco Wrinkle Beasts. Great headline on this one. Border Collies look like a Great Dane while doubling up the Wrinkle Beast. 106-53. Black is back. Justin Blackman, 20 points. Nice first game back from suspension. T.Y., where you been? Hilton, he showed up this week, 27 points. Monster game. Matty Ice, though, 18 points. Is that his last good game of the season? Roddy White can't stay healthy. Julio Jones possibly out for the year. Tony Gonzalez isn't getting any younger. Who's he going to throw the ball to? Harry Douglas here shortly? I don't know. Waco Wrinkle Beast, Drew Brees, is, I feel like, a broken record. Leads the team with 19 points. Big money for Vincent Brown, the only other guy in double digits, 12 points. Joe paid a monster fee for him on the waiver wire last week. He put up 12 points, 119 yards or something, so pretty respectful. Unfortunately, Isaiah Peed, 0 points, and not only that, 0 yards. And Sidney Rice, a week late into the starting lineup, he had 0 points as well. Buffalo Armadillos break out of the 0-4 shell and into a winning streak shell. Buffalo, now 1-4, defeats the Hollywood Hotties 108-106 in a tight one. Julius Thomas, a.k.a. Orange Julius, 25 points, all on the arm of Chernobyl Tinwiskers Peyton Manning. Matt Prater, 18 points. Nice week to own anyone from the Broncos. Jay Cutler over Andy Dalton. That's the decision that Jack had to make. He made the right one. Cutler scores 22 to Dalton's 8. A nice week overall, not a ton of negatives. Buffalo D was the lowest score for Jack with only 5 points against Cleveland. But you can't blame him for trying that matchup. A good week for the Hollywood Hotties in their own right. Russell Wilson with 23 points. David Wilson put up a lonely 7. He scored a touchdown, and he went down with an injury. Eddie Lacy, 99 rush yards, a good game. Jason Witten, monster game, 19 points. And Justin Tucker, part of the kicking scoring brigade that rolled through the SG and Misfits League, he had 18. So an overall a good week for the Hotties. Just ran into a big Buffalo Armadillo team. Poughkeepsie Pandas took on the Tallahassee Trouser Snakes. Headline reads, Pandas coming out of extinction as they find their second win in a row. Terrell Pryor, nice start this week with 19 points against the Chargers. Jeremy Curley, Monday Night Football, scored a touchdown, 12 points. Jimmy Graham's a beast, 14 points. Didn't even score a touchdown. Alex Henry, I think he led the kicker class this week, 20 points. Crazy stats out of kickers this week. Really for the Pandas, all but 2 players in double figures. Chris Gibbons with 1 and Rashard Jennings with 4. You got to be a little nervous, though. Chris Johnson, CJ2K, had a nice week by point standards, but it really was all on one broken play where he caught a little shovel pass from the headless Ryan Fitzpatrick and ended up turning into a touchdown. So a nice play in his own right. CJ is a home run hitter, so you kind of expect that, but got to be concerned with 10 carries for 17 yards if you're the Poughkeepsie Pandas. For the Trouser Snakes, they slipped to 1-4. Not a good start for Dave. Deshaun Jackson, 20 points. Ray Rice, newly acquired, 19 points. Frank Gore and Sweet Vernon Davis, 14 points. This game would have been interesting, but Michael Vick went down at 11 points in the first half. If he plays the second half, I think you have a nice game on your hands. Chicago D versus New Orleans. I usually don't rip bad starts on this podcast because we're such a deep league and because a lot of times just don't have any options. There's no way I start Chicago's D versus Drew Brees. That guy can pick apart anyone, and he did so, and Chicago only scored 3 points. Ryan Matthews with the donut, and Tavon Austin. How long do you keep putting him in your lineup? He scores 3 points once again this week. Waiver Wire Wednesday, pretty dull week. Just not a lot of breakouts this week from players that weren't already on teams. Alshon Jeffrey, Austin Pettis, all those guys already on squads. So Brandon Bolden went for $29 to the struggling Waco Wrinkle Beast. Keenan Allen, nice buy at $14 to the Buffalo Armadillos. But seriously, Jack, you couldn't have any more wide receivers. Good luck picking the right ones each week. And Garrett Graham, as Owen Daniels goes out with a broken femur or fibula or one of the two, he goes for $9 to the Gnawbone Butte Pirates. Not a bad pickup at tight end. Trades this week. We'll both kind of chime in on these. I'll run through each trade, and then we'll each kind of give our thoughts. First trade, Tallahassee Trouser Snakes sent Frank Gore and Sweet Vernon Davis to the Gnawbone Butte Pirates for MJD and Brandon Marshall. Mike, why don't you give your analysis on this trade?
This one, I think it's a pretty good trade for both sides. If I had to pick a side on this one, probably going to go with Gore and Vernon Davis. Brandon Marshall, he keeps getting double teamed in Chicago. Of course, I'm a big fan of Alshon Jeffrey on my side and cleaning up because of it. But I don't know, not big on Marshall at this point, and going to give the edge to the Trouser Snakes on this one.
You're going to give the edge
the edge to the Butte Pirates.
Yep, absolutely. I'm kind of right with you. I like this trade for the Butte Pirates. Any way you can get rid of MJD right now, I think, is a good way. And, it hurts to lose Brandon Marshall. He's a nice player, and he'll have his weeks. But MJD is a cancer, and he's on a terrible team, and I feel terrible for him. But it's just the way it is. Buffalo Armadillos, they send Marcus Colston, Andy Dalton, and Steve Smith to the Tallahassee Trouser Snakes for Deshaun Jackson. I believe the number 2 scoring wide receiver in the league so far to date. Mike, your thoughts on this trade?
I think this was a good trade. Anytime you can get a big time wide receiver, I think you need to do it. So, I think I'll give the edge to the Dillos on this one. I know Tallahassee, they've gone through some struggles this year. Probably the best 1-4 team I've seen in a while, and so at least on paper. So, but had to make a move, and I think the guys down in Buffalo are going to benefit from it.
Mike says 0 for 2 to the Trouser Snakes so far. This one, I think it's a fairly fair deal. I like it for the Dillos because it gives him a guy that he can put in the lineup every week and doesn't have to worry about it. Marcus Colson has been underperforming. I still think at the end of the year he has 6 to 8 touchdowns, which bodes well for the Trouser Snakes. With Vic going down, Trouser Snakes need a quarterback. I don't know if Andy Dalton's the guy I am looking for, but sure. Steve Smith, I think he's been on the Trouser Snakes at least once this year already. I think he even started for him in week 1 versus me and caught a touchdown. Maybe, coming back to his original owner will ignite a fire under him. We'll see. Boy, I think it's a close trade, but I like it better for the Buffalo Armadillos. Poughkeepsie Pandas traded with my team, the Potomac Pretenders. They sent Dwayne Bowe and Niall Davis. And for those of you who don't know who the hell Niall Davis is, he's the handcuff to Jamal Charles. I don't really know if Jamal Charles were to, God, I hope this never happens, get hurt and be out for the season. I don't think Niall Davis would replace him, but I guess it's just a little rest assured news for me. So I sent Kenbrell Tompkins and Ruben Randall, two wide receivers. Ken Burrell's been pretty solid, and Ruben's had a couple nice weeks to the Pandas. Your thoughts on this? Dwayne Bowe has obviously been pretty bad this year, but your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, so I kind of see this as, a Tompkins and Randall for a Bowe trade. I mean, Niall Davis, he's, like you said, I know you're worried if for whatever reason Jamal goes down, you got someone to pick up the slack there. I think, like you had mentioned, Dwayne Bowe, kind of having an off year. So, I'm probably going to give the edge to the Pandas on this one.
And that's fine. I can't completely disagree with you. I will say this. I have 3 wide receivers in Potomac currently. A.J. Green, Larry Fitzgerald, and kind of a breakout guy in Torrey Smith. So really, the way I looked at it was Kenbrell Tompkins and Ruben Randall realistically aren't going to crack the starting lineup. Dwayne Bowe, it's a buy low. He's obviously horrible, but if he turns out and scores 8 to 10 touchdowns the rest of the year, which would be unbelievable, all of a sudden I got another guy. So it was a pretty easy move for me, even though I kind of agree it probably helps the Pandas immediately better than it helps me. But that's a decision I made. Waco Wrinklebeast trying to get out of the stink hole. They dish Kobe Fleener to once again the Tallahassee Trouser Snakes for, believe it or not, Ryan Matthews. Kobe Fleener, I mean, he's the only tight end in Indy. I like him better than Kyle Rudolph, and that's Waco's other tight end. Ryan Matthews, I mean, he is a shadow of what we once thought he was, which wasn't much anyways. Danny Woodhead stealing carries and catches and everything there. Waco needs a running back. Monty Ball isn't getting any carries. At least Ryan Matthews at least has his hands on the pigskin. I think I like this play better for the Trouser Snakes for once in this week's trades. Mike, your thoughts?
I think you get someone immediate, and Kobe you can throw in the lineup. Last I heard, Ryan Matthews went out with the concussion this week and unsure of his return. So I think this might be down the road payoff better for the Wrinkle Beasts and the guys down in Waco there. It's been a tough year so far, so I hope it works out well for them.
Absolutely. All right, that wraps it up for trades this week, and now we will move on to Week 6 Pick'em. So first up this week, the Poughkeepsie Pandas 2-3 take on the 1-4 Buffalo Armadillos. Running backs tough this week for the Poughkeepsie Pandas at Seattle versus Cincinnati. Ken Burrell cracks the starting lineup fresh out of my team. Demarius versus Jacksonville. What will Terrell Pryor do? He has a tough matchup in the Chiefs this week. For the Buffalo Armadillos, Cutler, I love him this week for the Giants. Josh Gordon's a stud. D-Jax looked like a nasty 1-2 combo. But they played Detroit and Tampa Bay. Both are sneaky good. Julius Thomas, does he get some of what's going on or what's going to happen in Jacksonville? It's going to be a rout. Just hard to say what hands are going to catch what balls from Peyton. I'm still going Dillos in this one. I think they stop the Poughkeepsie Panda winning streak and start one of their own with 2 in a row. Mike, who do you got in this game?
So this is my closest game of the week, actually. I like both sides. Of course, Demarius. With playing Jacksonville, especially, I mean, Denver can throw up as many points as they want to, or as few points as they want to. I know we'll be talking about it later, but is Peyton gonna play the whole game? Are we gonna run into one of those situations? On the other side, Cutler versus the Giants. Terrible defense, so he can throw up some big points in a hurry there as well. I'm gonna have to agree with you, and I say the Dillos pull off the win, but it's gonna be close.
Buffalo Armadillos sweep it in the Under the Foreskin studios. Hollywood Hotties 2-3 travel to Flint, Michigan to take on the Tropics, the 2-2-1 Tropics. For the Hotties, Stacy, Lacey, and D'Angelo, a 3-headed monster. Not my ideal 3-headed monster, but one nonetheless. Wayne and Witten, Reggie Wayne and Jason Witten with juicy matchups. For the Flint Tropics, Dez versus Washington. Jordan Cameron versus Detroit, looking for a bounce-back game. Denver D versus Jacksonville, that could be a big score. And Ben Tate and the law firm, kind of blah running backs, blah matchups. You hope for some points out of both those, but you definitely don't expect them. Even so, I think Dez and the Denver D carry the Flint Tropics to a winning record. I got Flint taking down the Hotties. Mike, your thoughts?
I have to agree with you there. I'd have the Flint Tropics as well. Nothing really stands out. I hate to say it, but Denver defense might be the big score on the team this week for Neil and the guys down in Flint. On the other side of the ball, Russell Wilson, been solid. Nothing great, but putting up solid numbers. Jason Witten, I could see putting a big game in against Washington's D. But I don't think it's going to be enough to overcome Flint and the guys and Neil and his team.
Another sweep in the Under the Foreskin studios. And Mike, I'll let you take this matchup first, but the Poland Sausage Wallets at 4-1 travel to the opposite record team, the Tallahassee Trouser Snakes. Mike, why don't you run through your thoughts on this game and give me your pick?
So on this matchup, Polish Sausage Wallets, Trouser Snakes. Polish Sausage Wallets, I think, are going to get hurt by a couple guys on bye this week. Tony Gonzalez, we got Jones on bye. And injured. So I think the Tallahassee Trouser Snakes are gonna steal this one. A couple trades made this week. I know I kind of knocked Marshall earlier against the Giants. I could see him putting up big numbers. Ray Rice, he's always kind of the guy that can put up a lot of points. Recently hasn't put up that much, and I think the Trouser Snakes pull this one off.
I'm right there with you, Mike. Griffin could have a big game in a shootout versus Dallas for the Sausage Wallets. Marcel Reese gets a start. He's got him in the lineup, but it's at Kansas City. Tough place to play against a good D. McCoy versus Tampa. Tampa, sneaky good run defense. Hard to say what happens in that game without Michael Vick. For the Trouser Snakes, I really do love every matchup he has on the lineup, with the exception of Maurice Jones-Drew. That game could be 35-0 before the blink of an eye, and Maurice Jones-Drew could have 3 carries, and he might not get another one. So you're hoping for some receptions. You're hoping for a touchdown. As bad as the Jags are, MJD has put up some, high single-digit point weeks, which I guess you got to be happy with because of how bad that team is. I like the Trouser Snakes, too. They're just, I think they just walk all over the Julio-less Poland Sausage Wallets. So I'm going Trouser Snakes. Next matchup, Mike Chernobyl Tinwiskers 3-2 take on the Sioux City Smugglers 2-3. And I bet Roger at the beginning of the season and after 5 weeks would not have said he will be the underdog A and B the team with the worst record when he meets the Tinwiskers in Week 6. Mike, why don't you lead this one off for your team?
Well, on this one, of course, I'm going with my team. We got some good matchups this week. Alshon Jeffrey and Martellus Bennett. Hopefully we can get him all bandaged up and out on the field. I know that he had an injury scare earlier this week. Of course, Peyton Manning, like I mentioned earlier, he can put up as many points as he wants to against the Jaguars. So basically, I see big games out of all those guys. Of course, I got Le'Veon Bell back. Huge week 2 weeks ago against the Vikings. 19 points, first game in his NFL career. On a bye week last week, couple more weeks to rest up. See him having a big game as well. And saw it interesting that right now the starting lineup on the old Sioux City Smugglers does have Tony Romo. Coming off a big game last week, looks like you're ditching Tom Brady and putting in Romo. I think it'll be close, but I have my Chernobyl Tinwiskers taking this one.
All right. My notes for this game, Chernobyl Tinwiskers. Manning for the first half is a stud anyways. Who cares if he scores 25 points in the first half? It's still 25 points. Alshon Jeffrey, will he follow up? I think Andre Johnson goes nuts against St. Louis's horrible pass D. Le'Veon Bell, I like that the week off is huge in making sure he's fully healthy. Mendenhall, they both have semi-tough matchups. I think Mendenhall plays San Francisco. But it doesn't matter. I mean, every week you put out there two running backs who I question, and you still end up winning games. So, for the Smugglers, I don't think it matters who the Smugglers start. If he starts Romo, Brady's going to have a huge game. If he starts Brady, Romo's going to have a huge game. Roger, I think of as a nice fantasy mind. Unfortunately, something about him just always bites his own self in the ass. I think Doug Martin finally gets into double digits this week. He plays Philly. That's a nice matchup. And will Rob Gronkowski actually play? That's a big question mark. They're saying there's a better than 50-50 chance, but I feel like I've heard that 2 weeks in a row. Chernobyl Tinwiskers is going to have to perform every player, but I think they sneak by the Sioux City Smugglers in a high-scoring affair this week. Duluth Draft Dodgers 2-3 take on the Gnawbone Butte Pirates at 4-1. Scary week to play the Duluth Draft Dodgers. Much like you, I would consider them a surprise team. I wasn't quite as down on them after the draft, but at the same time, it just didn't look like a super solid squad. Some nice trades to obtain guys like Arian Foster have suited him well, and he scored some big points in each week. Duluth Draft Dodgers, unreal matchups. Luck at San Diego, Foster versus St. Louis, horrible run D. DeMarco Murray versus Washington, horrible run D. Eric Decker at Jacksonville. Jacksonville's bad. You just got to hope he catches some touchdowns from Peyton. Greg Olson versus Minnesota, worst team against the tight ends. My only concern, Green Bay at Baltimore. The Clay Matthews-less Green Bay Packers are going to be on the road. I'd like to see him start a different team, but at the same time, Joe Flacco threw 5 picks at home last week, so who knows what will happen in that game. For the Butte Pirates, Cam Newton versus Minnesota, you got to like that. Also, similarly good matchups for the Butte Pirates. Arizona D versus my Gazelle, Colin Kaepernick and the San Francisco 49ers. My only concern for the Butte Pirates. I think this, much like your Tinwisker Smuggler game, really tight, really high scoring. Dodgers get to 500. Mike, who do you like?
Right there with you. I do have the Dodgers down on the sheet. Like you said, big time matchup advantage, I think, for the Dodgers. Really think Murray is going to have a standout game against Washington. As far as the Butte Pirates, Cruz and Victor Cruz and the receiving squad, it always has that in the back pocket. Cam Newton, always out there and can throw up points in a hurry. So I think it'll be close, but like you, I have the Dodgers down on my sheet.
All right, Prairie Dogs of Crapstone 3-2 take on the 4-1 Baton Rouge Border Collies. And there is more than just a win and a loss on the line in this game. The Purina Top Dog Bowl is on the line. Much like the Floyd of Rosedale, much like the Big Axe, this is the Purina Top Dog Bowl. From the sounds of it, it is some sort of pet dish that has been slightly decorated, and it represents every year when the Prairie Dogs play the Border Collies. I would highly advise every other team finding a competitor in the league and coming up with their own trophy. I love this idea out of Alex and Jason. scary big projections this week for the Crapstone Prairie Dogs. 109 points. None of their studs, other top 5 are on bye. Everyone's in this week, and they all have decent matchups. Look out for Crapstone. Although, wait, the Baton Rouge Bordy Collies. T-Rich has to have a breakout game. He's got a nice matchup this week. Forte is going crazy on the Giants. They're going to win that game by a lot. Terrence Williams and T.Y. Hilton and Justin Blackman all had big weeks last week. They're going to all need to repeat. My heart says, or my head, I should say, says Crapstone Prairie Dogs over them big. But my heart says Baton Rouge Border Collies in a tight one. I'm going Border Collies this week. Mike, your thoughts?
Wow. That's a
upset of the week.
Aggressive pick there. I do have the Prairie Dogs down on my sheet. Like you had mentioned, top 5 guys on the Dogs. Prairie Dogs, I guess I need to qualify this week. Top 5 guys, great, no issues with the bye weeks. AP is back, and that's
scary in itself.
And so I'm gonna go with the Prairie Dogs this week.
All right, last matchup of the week: the undefeated Pretenders, my Potomac Pretenders, 4-0-1. They're headed to Waco for well, we're not going to call it a tough road game, but a road game versus the 0-5 Waco Wrinklebees. Besides Larry Fitzgerald playing in San Francisco, I think every matchup's juicy for me this week. I love my Pretenders this week. Colin Kaepernick's going to break out his little funk that Jim Harbaugh and his stupid face have him in. I love Colin Kaepernick. I think we're going to see the Gazelle in full form run right by Patrick Peterson, run right by the other guys I can't name on Arizona defense, and he's going to have a monster week. For Waco, Drew Brees at New England. Really, that's the only matchup you need to worry about when you're playing the Waco Wrinklebees. I don't think that's a great one for Drew Brees. Will he still score 20-plus points? Yes, but he won't score 50 points like your Peyton Manning. Pretenders in a landslide. They move to 5-1. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty easy pick here. I will say this is most likely going to be a landslide. Waco just not making it happen this year. Drew Brees and a bunch of other guys on the team. I'm gonna say, I think if Potomac, I don't think they're gonna score as many points, and I think he hit a good matchup this week because if he was playing some other teams in the league, I don't think I'd have him on top. So scheduling bonus for Kyle, and I think, like I mentioned, I think they'll win in a landslide.
I tell you what, I'll take it. I'll be at the top of the league next week still, and I'll gloat about it, and you're going to hear about it till I eventually fall to my most probable death, and like last year when I didn't make the playoffs anyways. With that said, I got one more topic for Mike here. We often call the Chernobyl Tinwiskers the Chernobyl Tinwankers, mostly because we have many teams that refer to penises in their names, and Tinwiskers just doesn't seem like a penis reference, so we go with Tinwankers, which is a penis reference. What is a tinwhisker?
Wow, we're really going deep here. No, actually, it's actually an engineering term. I hate to say it. It is little pieces of tin on a circuit board that can cause short circuits. So nothing. Sounds cool. Kind of a dumb meaning, but no, it actually has nothing to do with penises, and like a number of the other teams do. So sorry to disappoint everyone out there in the SJU and Misfits league and all of our followers.
Well, that's fine. It's not a disaster in Chernobyl this year. I think we've beaten that one to death. Got a nice team, high-scoring team. Wouldn't want to face them in any week. I think we got a matchup coming up in Week 9 when the Gazelle's on bye. So I'm a little nervous for that, to be honest. I'd hate to have my first loss handed to me by a team last year that gave Alex the league. So with that said, follow us on Twitter at SJU Misfits and on YouTube, youtube.com/SJU and Misfits. Until next week, good luck out there on the gridiron. Stay classy.